Hi, Commander Runningcloud here. I've talked a lot about my strong desire and attempt to discipline myself to keep these conversations focused on the future and the future plans. But I am still living in the present, and that's an undeniable fact of life. And today, last night, I had a lot of very extreme headaches that seemed to trace um, the locations of the bioweapons inside of me. And that made me feel like, it's a healing event. And it explains why it's going to be so complex to extricate me from it. That it has created so many pathways inside my body, inside my head. I told you before, my crown chakra, my etheric body is involved. It's an interdimensional disease. But they were really making a lot of advancements on curing me through the night, and I could feel the pain of procedures. I have Foxy outside. Then yesterday I had a problem with the food delivery. Um, my food source wasn't delivering yesterday. So that made me feel a little insecure. So I ordered from Sam's Club, and this is what this they sent me these pineapples. But look, do you think some are missing? I think some are missing. Okay, and look how old they are. See how old they are? And this happens to me every time every time I order from Sam's. They'll send me the things that wouldn't sell in the store. They'll send me the things that wouldn't sell in the store. And I guess maybe from a business point of view, that's probably smart to deliver to people who can't go out and get the food themselves, handicapped people, senior citizens, prisoners of war, and then just pass them off the food that you probably would give to a shelter. So it makes me really angry, and I try to avoid getting things I think they're going to tamper with. But these pineapples are not only old, but somebody helped themselves to some. And that happens every time. So every time I order food from Sam's Club, which is where I order my food from, because they have good prices and I'm used to their food, they will send me something that their people have taken a bite out of. Or they will send me foods that are on the expiration date or within a couple of days of the expiration date. Now, it's a warehouse club, so the portions are huge. So if they send you something that's going to expire tomorrow and it's something meant to last a month in your refrigerator, then you've got a problem. And then there's the mini fridge in the hotel room that freezes my food. I boiled all these eggs up and half of them froze in the refrigerator because the temperature is inconsistent in that mini fridge. And I guess I could order a new mini fridge and buy a new one and have it put in here, but that would be a huge expense for me to undertake. I already replaced the microwave. So these are the frustrations that I live with. I couldn't get my food in yesterday. I ordered food last night, and the food I have ordered is pilfered. They pilfered the food. And I tip them good, whether I tip them good or bad. Come on, Foxy. No, I can't let you go further. I have Foxy's little encampment at the door. I have the door open because there are a lot of bad fumes coming in here. They're still coming in from the other day. A lot of they smell very chemical. Okay, that has replaced the hemp that was flowing through here. So now this smell catches in my nose, makes me feel sick. So I open the door over there. I don't know if you can see it. So I have the door open, and I have little Foxy's encampment over there. But he's crying. I don't know if he wants to go out there further. Come on in then. Come on in then. You want to come in? You want to come in? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, this is a serious problem. This one is attached over there. That's going to be a problem. I'm going to have to close the door. I'm going to have to close the door for now. Close the door for now. Because that has to be done a certain kind of way. That bedspread has to hang across the curtains, and it's worked itself loose from there. But we're trying to get some fresh air in here again. This is the second day that I've opened the door to get some fresh air. But today I also went outside. It's Sunday. It's quiet. A lot of people were working Saturday night, pretty late. So I went and I got my Mother's Day gift. My kids sent me a bunch of these. I used to really like them. I suppose I still do. Really like these Godiva raspberries. And my son remembered, that I used to buy these when I would be shopping. I'd go shopping at the store in the mall. And at the checkout, they would always have these chocolates. And these chocolates were always special to me because my ex-husband, he used to give them to me for Mother's Day. Valentine's Day. And a couple of times he gave me Godiva chocolates in beautiful velvet heart collector box. Great big. It was just wonderful. So I always had a fondness in my heart for these chocolates. And when they started putting them at the checkout of the department store where I shopped for my clothes, one of the department stores in New Haven, I used to pick one up. So I went downstairs because it was so quiet here. It's Sunday, very quiet. And although there was somebody just hanging out there and a couple of people walked by, I did leave this room. And I had a lot of trouble closing my door on the way out. I couldn't get my door to close right and lock. So that created stress. The point is I'm telling you a story about the mounting stress of the day. And it's not going to be just about me. So I'm having food anxiety. Am I going to be able to order my food? And it's probably all the flooding in Houston from the big rainstorms. And I think there was even a little hurricane or tornado here. And it might have, put strain on the food supply. And then the bad air, and then the pain in my head as this disease is being tracked. And I also woke up with all the veins in this system, in the creature's system, burning hot. So I didn't have the best night again. And then when I woke up, I had to deal with this delivery from Sam's Club and the bad air and the trouble with my door, where they try to break my door in and make it so it won't lock and they can just come in. And noises at my window last night with somebody right in front of my window. And then when I went downstairs to get my package, with all that stress, I saw a European couple, a senior citizen couple, and they had a lot of luggage, the kind of luggage that you might have if you're living in your car or your SUV. And they were saying, well, are there any cancellations? And Ro at the desk said no. And he said, oh, and they obviously didn't have anywhere to go or stay because they were just hanging out in the lobby, trying to get a room here. Because this hotel is decent enough, and it's one of the most inexpensive. So if you're living on Social Security like they probably are, this is one of the most inexpensive hotels. And I felt so much sorrow and pity for them. But I also felt that sense that you get when you're the survivor, like, oh, thank God I got a room. Because I know what it's like to be out there without a room. looking for a place to stay that you can pay for and that won't be too dangerous. So that reminded me of Elder Gal and all the trouble that senior citizens are in with the rents that are out of control, the real estate associations and investors that refuse to find their humanity and make things reasonable. And seeing them suffer like that reminded me that I'm trying to leave here, right? And that I'll be facing that insecurity again of not having a place to live, of not having a secure home, of not having shelter that I can rely on. And I thought of how many other people in my generation that were expecting our society to be ready to accommodate us, to have places for us to live, or at least to have not designed economic systems that required us to use everything we earned to live. So that was a downer. Then I get back to my room and, Foxy's crying now because he wants to be outside. And I'm looking at the sun and I'm looking at the sky and I'm looking at the trees and I'm feeling the wind and I'm thinking, oh my God, I wish I could go outside. Then I had a conversation, with one of my kids and that was really great, except I'm trying really hard. You see, the veins are all alive. Something is going on. So that was really great, but it just reminds me of a burden, of being a burden. It reminds me that I don't have a life. I don't have an official purpose, and how important it is to have a place in the world. So so in my mind I'm doing this, but I'm still mentally connecting with the couple downstairs. And I'm still thinking about the way Sam's Club will send me, food that they've tampered with. And I'm thinking about how many people feel totally comfortable taking advantage of other people's helplessness to change things, to control their lives, to have dignity and security. And it just made me want to cry, okay? Made me want to cry because I don't know when this will end, and it might never end. I might never realize these dreams that I've been spinning out for you and myself. And that has me just feeling overwhelmingly depressed. Because it looks like I could just go outside if I want to. Okay? I open the door and I put little Foxy's little house near the door so he could at least see outside, get some air. But he wants more too, and I want more. I want to be able to go outside. But when I felt that urge before and exercised that right to go outside, well, I got attacked with this that's creating a venal system in my body. I got shot in the eye. I got shot in the chin. I got attacked. And that's not even including the verbal attacks. So here I am another day in this room, pretending that I'll be joining Star Trek, pretending that I have an audience, pretending that I'll be a survivor, while knowing that the reality that our leaders have created for us leads to an unpleasant end, that I'm already experiencing an unpleasant end. Just like the couple downstairs. just like the couple downstairs that can't get a room at this hotel. So then I feel like, oh, I'm so lucky. I have a room at this hotel. I'm so lucky. I have a room at this hotel, right? So I'm going to open my door again today, and hope for the best. And see the sunshine out there and realize that although it looks like I could be free, it looks like I could just walk out if I wanted, there would be consequences. And I've learned that again and again and again. I've learned it again and again and again, that there are consequences if I go outside. So today I feel very woe is me. Today I feel that it's very possible that this is going to be it, as it is for so many other American people. And the senior citizens, the situation that they have us in is totally incredible. Do you know that when my children went to school, I had to take out a student loan in my name to help educate them? Imagine they learned how to get to the parents. And what are you going to say to your kid? I'm sorry, I'm not going to take out a loan for you. No, you're not going to say that, because you've trained them all their lives to want to go to college. And they had no reason to believe that they would not be able to go to college. And you expected your society to be looking out for you. But they haven't looked out for us. And they've made it clear to us that if you want to protest like the January 6th people did, we're gonna use our force to put you in prison. And if you want to protest like the college students are protesting, then we're going to give you a record that's going to follow you and make you a targeted person for the rest of your life. They're teaching us that they have so much power that we can't even protest. And that's not even the worst of it. I mean, that's what's happening in the broader scale. But a couple of things happened just to the Black people. Now, on the positive tip, there's a powwow going on in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I actually went to Winnipeg, Manitoba to look for a job when George Bush was the president. I went to visit a guy named Perry Noodleman, who was teaching children's literature there in Manitoba. And I wanted to get a job, but it was so European on that campus that I didn't even go to the administration office. And Perry told me there were no jobs there. And he also said the students weren't interested in learning, which I thought was strange. Anyway, they're in Manitoba. They're having a powwow, and oh boy, the energy is fantastic. And I'm looking at the people in Manitoba, and they actually look more healthy than the real Americans in America. So I guess a lot of the diseases that the American government deploys in the reservations, and a lot of the contaminated waters that William and Jane Mount have told us about, and Linda Moulton Howe have told us about, a lot of that is affecting the health of the Americans in the tribal Americans. And you can see the difference. My teeth. You can see the difference, and it's very interesting to see, because you wouldn't expect to see the difference. But the vibrancy, you can check it out at powwows.com. It's really a great powwow there in Manitoba. And there's also an agency in Manitoba at the University of Manitoba about reconciliation for the tribes, where they do research, and they are sponsoring part of the event. So I found out about that organization. That was great. Then I was watching Roland Martin, and I learned about a guy in the United States of American military who was murdered in Florida by a law enforcement officer. And it was another case of real Americans being murdered by the Europeans in law enforcement. And the commander of this young man's speech at his funeral was shared with us. And it was a very obvious use of European English or European American language spoken to real American people. The commander made it very clear that he saw the Black American soldier as an outsider. He said, "You people made him. You people created him. And we enjoyed the benefit of what you created in this young man. And we let him join us. And he was a credit to his race. He was a credit to all of you who made him." And I was almost shocked at how openly obvious the European military leader was about the military position in European nationalism and the way that the European military that serves the United States of America Corporation is totally involved with supporting European nationalism and has absolutely no problem with European racism. It seemed to me so obvious by the European commander's language that he did not see the Black soldiers as a real part of the unit. He saw them as outsiders, almost like foreign troops joining the Europeans. If we don't know by now that the military serves the leadership, and the leadership were pretty much appointed, and that the leadership serves European nationalism, and that the goal of European nationalism is to create subjects, royal subjects of everyone. If we don't realize that by now, we're never going to know it. But the problem is a lot of us do realize it. And we're supposed to believe that a lot of the white hats have done something about it, but the white hats don't recognize racism. They're still in a position, a subject position of European nationalism. And knowing that just adds to my sense of hopelessness. Where can I go? Where can I live? How can I survive? I'm only 67. I don't want to die. And when I saw that couple downstairs, you know, they don't look that healthy. They really didn't. The man and woman, they were both obese and they were both, you know, they didn't look like they were enjoying comfort and relaxation in life. And here they are in the lobby of this hotel on a Sunday, Holy Sunday afternoon, looking for a room at the inn. And then elder gal living in senior citizen housing, which are little boxes that cost a lot. Little boxes that cost a good portion of your Social Security check. And if you didn't work or you weren't married to a worker long enough, you won't even get a Social Security check. And I don't know how those people live. I don't know how they live. And if you have no place to live and no food to eat, you are going to die. So how did we end up in a society that has predestined so many people to death? During the 2000s, when they were using contract workers instead of full-time workers and they were cutting back the benefits, they made it impossible for a lot of people to find full-time employment that paid Social Security benefits. Impossible. They closed the employment market down. And while they published numbers that looked great, A lot of people were lucky if they could get a job at Walmart. And a lot of people did not get a job with benefits anywhere. And the people that were lucky had 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And then they gave us a way that you could get a mortgage on your house, right? And that could bail you out of all the debt that they made sure that you were in. But then you would be upside down, that you would owe more on your house than it was worth. And when they took the repairs that your house needed into account, that you could never afford to make, that when you could afford to make it, the craftsmen, the tradesmen were not trained well enough to solve the problem. So a lot of people got in big trouble with that. And then they end up losing the house. And they're trying to live in their vehicle. And then they pass laws about vehicles on the street and living in your vehicle. And then a whole crime community develops on taking the assets of people that are living in their cars. You know, it's all been orchestrated against all of us, of all the races. And the people that find a place on the shelf of survival, they are scrambling to stay there. They are desperately hanging on. Do you know how many people that were making a living in real estate investments are finding themselves up against the wall right now? All those losses on the books that turned out to be really nice tax benefits when they were able to occupy the properties have turned into serious liabilities now, and they're losing those properties. But will they make the rents reasonable so that the homeless people, the senior citizens looking for a decent place to live, can find a place? No, they won't. And I saw a news report today that says Gen X, which is a generation after the millennials, have so much credit card debt already. Now, that credit card scam started when I was a young working woman. And it doesn't take you long to use up your credit and to be paying the minimum because you used your credit because you didn't have the money. So you're not going to have the money next month either, right? So you're going to end up paying the minimum, right? And then they're going to throw that student loan in. So you'll end up paying the minimum everywhere you can. And you'll find out that $2,000 you borrowed is going to take you 10 years to pay back. But you know as well as I do that as soon as there's some clearance, you're going to use that credit card again because you're going to want that meal. You're going to need that dress. You're going to need those stockings to go to work in. And it's all been designed to lead us here. If we were to think that all those clever economic scientists actually designed a system that's this incompetent accidentally, then we would have to discredit them all. Janet Yellen and all the others that created this big mess. But they did it on purpose. They did it intentionally. And that just reminds me, when William Mount kept saying that the Luciferians want us dead, I didn't believe him. I mean, I believed him, but I didn't think they could do it. Because then I did not see how all these systems converge to create a net effect that tells me that there is no avenue for me to continue living. My children can't take me in as we used to do in the 1980s for our seniors. The system does not have a way to give me enough money to pay rent anywhere that's safe or decent to live. And they deny me my inheritances. If they're denying me my inheritances, they must be denying other people their inheritances. I don't think that they designed all of these traps just for me. Especially now that I've heard, what Elder Girl's testimony is. And then seeing those 2 European Americans downstairs, desperate for shelter, traveling around with their big suitcases, as big as trunks. That's not for a casual visit. That's not coming in for a high school or college graduation. That's a lifestyle. And it's a lifestyle that we never expected. We expected our politicians, we expected our corporations, we expected all of our leaders to be creating a viable system for us to live in. And they have not done that. So today, when I'm feeling a lot of self-doubt because of the reality of the present that's all around me, and the way that this present projects into a future, the way you can just use, logic to see where this ends, I feel so disheartened and so depressed and so filled with hopelessness, because senior citizens don't have enough energy or power to fight this if there was even a way. And there isn't. With AI operating customer service, we can't even get to talk to anybody. And after COVID closed down a lot of physical installations, there's no place you can even go to talk to somebody about it. And if you're Black, you know that people like Greg Abbott will pardon men that murder real Americans. And we know that the United States military will come and say, thanks for lending us your human being, and sorry one of us murdered him, but it bees like that from the commander in the United States military. So we know the military is not seeing us as a part. They're working for the enemies of humanity. So to me, the only hope for the future is if the earth is liberated by the good ETs. And I look around at people and I don't want us to perish. I don't want a single person to end up dead, except the evil people that have hurt me and the people that are committed to hurting everybody. I wouldn't mind if they disappeared from the earth. But there are so many good and innocent people here that if I have my choice of what I want to do, I would want to do the time travel that lets me have the time and space to address these social problems and lets me return here with all the power and tools I need to fix them. Just like that. So that my generation doesn't die this horrible, miserable death, this horrible lifestyle that our enemies have planned for us. So the only hope that I have lays in my belief in the reports that the bad reptilians from underground and outer space have been thoroughly defeated, that they are on the run at best for them. But that the power that they have exercised to oppress the human beings of Earth, the Earthian people, I have to believe that their power is gone. Otherwise, I don't see the future for myself or anyone, at least in America, where the economic system has been created and supported by the politicians and the corporate leaders to completely wipe us out. Wipe us out because we do not have the means for our own survival. And that, the head trip that comes with that, just the head trip that comes with that, leads you to so many desperate positions. Because maybe you don't want to die in jail because you're a vagrant. Maybe you don't want your meals to be meals served by the private prison industry because you're a vagrant. And if you're a real American, maybe you don't want to be poisoned by the, European nationalists that are willing to build your homes on toxic waste dumps and dump uranium in your water. And these are the facts. You can listen to Bill and Jane Mount's reports. If you don't believe me, they're verifiable sources, verified sources. Or you can look at my story. I mean, I have the proof that I'm being beta tested with bioweapons, and these are bioweapons that were not created just for me. They're being manufactured in the Ukraine. They're being manufactured at Harvard University. They're being manufactured in labs all over the world and tested on me, right? But I already told you that I feel the diagnostic tests being done on me to isolate these viruses and remove them from humanity. But this happens in the invisible spaces, the etheric spaces, the dream spaces, the spaces that are unverified. Because when I wake up here. I wake up here where Europeans are begging for a room in the cheapest, decent hotel. I wake up here where Morgellons fibers are somehow coming in through the cracks and landing on my face and burrowing into my eyes, nose, mouth, and the ears. I'm breathing one kind of gas after another that's coming in through perhaps the air conditioning. I don't know. I've even found organisms in some of my bottled water. I have to look at each bottle of water very carefully because sometimes there are swimming things in my water supply. So when we look at life in America and the prospects for the future, we can see that Bill and Jane Mount are right, that the enemies of humanity are in the middle of a big, huge genocide that includes the Europeans of America that are not the commander, the commander that spoke on Roland Martin's show. They're not aligned with power. So if I am to choose what I want to do, more specifically, as a member of Star Trek, I want to be able to travel back. I want to be able to travel back to this time after we have developed the solutions. There are so many vacant properties where people could be staying. People with 2 and 3 homes on the books when they can only live in one, and homes that are very expensive. So many senior citizens who had lived in nice places when they were younger, when they could afford it. People like me, I lived in the best places, the best communities, and now I'm at the very bottom and helpless to change things for myself. I've been unemployable for decades now. And everything I invested in was noble and worthy. But look at the fruits. It bore fruits that have been poisoned by our enemies that control the economic system. And I don't see any way out except just like the people, that were actually victims in the concentration camps. It's only by a liberation army that we can be freed. We need to be liberated from this mess that we're in. And that's the good ETs. So if I could have my wish, I would do the 20 and back. And I would go away and address these problems. Identify the houses that are empty. Find the people that are homeless. Distribute these assets. Heal the earth. Grow crops. Create a proper irrigation system that isn't about aqueducts and privatization of water. Listen to Linda Moulton Howe when she talks about where the clean, fresh water can be found all over the planet. We are just in a vice grip from our enemies, a total vice grip that we're in. And if we can't do something about it, it's going to be worse. See this tooth? It wasn't like that 6 months ago. It wasn't like that until the organisms were activated, right? And it's not just going to happen to me. So in this space and time where I want to leave as a time traveler and come back before this scenario plays itself out, I don't want other people to suffer from the bioterrorism. I don't want other people to suffer as I have suffered from the bioweapons deployed on me. I love people. And I don't want to lose anybody, if you want to know the truth about it. I don't want to see the earth destroyed. I don't want to see all the people die. But I don't want to see this kind of suffering continue either. I don't want to see our enemies thrive and get richer and richer and richer when there's not even anything else that they can buy. While the rest of us are not allowed to create and fulfill purposes. Sorry, they send a lot of fibers in here and they seem to gravitate towards my face when I'm broadcasting, especially. That's why I think they might be nanofibers armed with some intelligence, because it's possible to create that. But you tell me why other people actually spent time creating things that would kill us in such subtle, insidious, and sadistic ways, when they could have used that time, that energy, those resources to make sure that we were all happy today, to make sure that everybody had enough, and that we had our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and pregnant women and young couples and teenagers and adolescents and prepubescents all around us, celebrating the gift of life. You can see it at the powwow. If you join in at powwows.com, you can see all of the Canadians, real Canadians, not Europeans settled in Canada, not the colonists, but the real Canadians. They are dancing. They are dressed in their regalia and their dresses. They are celebrating life and abundance. And I watched many hours, had it playing in the background too. And it's a grand celebration that certainly defies what the British Hazel Carby published, defies what the European nationalist academic system came up with, that the Americans are dead. I got that organism jumping in my face right now. It is very upsetting knowing that a living, intelligent entity has decided to cohabitate with you in your body space. And to know that other human beings made this happen. What do you think about that?